Good morning, my name is Ada. Today I'll be sharing with you what I learned in my study of the book of John. Now, in John chapter 4, verse 39, we're still talking about the woman at the well. We're told that the people of the city believed in Jesus because of the words of the woman when she testified. He told me everything I'd ever done. Why is this a big deal? It's a big deal because this woman, what she had done was something that had caused her to be ostracized, something that had caused her shame, something that caused her to be embarrassed, something that she would have rather had hidden. And yet she had this encounter with Jesus, and she comes out and he told me everything I'd ever done. And her story, her history, her background became her testimony, because they said she testified. Why was this such a big deal? Where she was coming from, based on her background, you would have said, oh, she did not qualify to be an evangelist. She did not qualify to be the one telling people about Jesus. She was so bad. She was so this and that. And it was, in those days, she wasn't even a woman. Which was like, why is she talking to us? But she had just met Jesus, and he had just given her that water, coming up in her, the rivers of living water, the fountains of water in her life. And she could not but share it with the people, with the whole city. She went out there, even though it could have embarrassed her, even though they could have rejected her, even though they could have been like, just leave, you're not worth us listening to. But she went there, and she went with her story. She went with her background. She went with, he told me everything I'd ever done. Guess what? They could have asked her, so what was it that you had done that he told you about? But it was her story, her coming out, her boldness, her courage in coming out to tell them about this man, to tell them about Christ, that got their attention. You're like, let's go see this person that gave this woman the courage and the boldness to come and speak to the entire city. This woman that had to hide to go and fetch water. She had to fetch water at a time when no one else was at the well. She had to sneak around to the markets so nobody would talk to her about her lifestyle. And yet here she was in public telling everybody, come and see this man. Come to Jesus. Come to him. And her boldness drew them to him. And they came to him, and they listened to him, and they requested that he stay with them. And he stayed, and they believed him even the more. At the end, they said to the woman, right now, we don't believe him just because of what you said, just because of your testimony. Now we believe him even more because of what he has said, because we have met him. Now, you may look at your life, may look at your background and be like, I'm not qualified to be the one to go tell people about Jesus. I've done a lot of things in my life. How am I supposed to teach about success when I failed? I remember when back in school, in the university, I, my fellowship, the Student Christian Movement, we had a secondary school ministry. So, but there was this time I failed some courses, about 3 courses, and I felt ashamed. I was embarrassed, having failed these courses. And when I went to visit my school, my assigned school, I felt like I couldn't talk to them about success in their exams because, hey, I had to resit my exams. I didn't even pass 3 exams, and here am I telling these young girls about passing their exam. I was kind of hiding it at first, but after a while I had to share it. I failed, and yes, I passed, but it was a testimony. It became my testimony. And I found that I was able to use that history to encourage others. Like when they failed, I could tell them, hey, I failed too. I knew I knew how it felt now to fail. I knew how it felt to be disappointed, to be like, you failed this course. I knew how I felt to study and still fail. And now I could use it as a testimony to other people. I could use it to encourage others. My story became a testimony that drew people back when they knew that, oh, if she could go through this, I can make it. I remember one person asking me, like, and you're smiling. And I laughed on the inside because when it happened, I wasn't smiling. In fact, I cried. But now I could smile because now it was my testimony. Now it was something I could look back on and talk about and encourage people. So that story in your life, that failure in your life, that thing that you think, if I tell people, they probably wouldn't listen to me anymore. If I tell people, I'm a pastor, but if I tell people that I used to live this certain lifestyle, they might not come to church anymore, or they might think, I'm a fraud. But guess what? Somebody needs to hear your story. Somebody needs to know that they also can make it. They need to hear your story. They need to hear your history. They need to hear your testimony. The Bible says we overcame the devil by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. It is those words, it is your testimony that you overcome the devil. If you keep hiding it, the devil's going to use it to blackmail you. It's going to be like, okay, if you do this thing, we're going to expose you and let people know that you used to be this one, or you weren't even a virgin when you got married, or you weren't even this, you weren't even that. And then you begin to live in fear and shame. And that is not what God has for you. That is not what God wants for you. You are his child. Once you've encountered him, guess what? Your story becomes a testimony. Your background becomes your testimony. Somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to hear it to believe in Jesus. And when they hear it, you're pointing them not to yourself. You're pointing them to Jesus. The woman pointed them to Jesus. They believed Jesus because of her story. And then they went to Jesus and they believed him. The foundation had already been laid. Her story had based the foundation. And so when they met him and they encountered him for themselves, they were able to say, now we believe. Many believed because of her testimony. Many more believed when they heard Jesus. But why did they come to Jesus? They came to him because she spoke out, because she came out with her testimony. She was bold. God is not about whitewashing things. If you go through the Bible, you find that God did not whitewash anything. Abraham was a man of faith. He was this, he was that. But if you look at it, he told lies, and the Bible did not hide that fact. Or David was a man after God's heart. He was the sweet psalmist of Israel, the best king they ever had, this and that. And yet God still told the story of his dealings with Bathsheba. In fact, when the Bible told the history, even in the New Testament, when they told the lineage of Jesus, some women were mentioned. Bathsheba was mentioned. I actually said who had been the wife of Uriah. That was his adulteress. She was mentioned. Rahab was mentioned. Rahab was a prostitute who decided to choose Jehovah, who decided to choose God. And she was mentioned in the lineage of Jesus. Tamar, she was mentioned. Tamar was a lady who, after her husband died, her father-in-law did not give her to her brother-in-law to, continue the lineage for her husband. So she pretended to be a prostitute and slept with her father-in-law and had children by him. And here she was mentioned in the lineage of Jesus. These women are mentioned not because they were perfect women, because their lives were testimonies that no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, as you come to him, he forgives you, he forgets, and he can use you. Ruth, she wasn't even an Israelite. Just Rahab wasn't an Israelite either. But Ruth wasn't even an Israelite. She was a Moabite. And she chose God. And she got married. And she was the great grandma of David, King David. And in the lineage of Jesus. So no matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, remember this. Remember this woman at the well. Let your life be a testimony. Somebody needs to hear it. It turns out that Boaz was the son of Rahab. So from his mother's testimony, he understood where this foreigner, this Ruth, was coming from. He was able to love her and accept her because he'd seen this testimony of his mom. Your testimony could help others. Your testimony could bring people to Christ. Come to God, encounter Him, and go tell people. Go win souls. If you failed, let us know you failed. Sometimes I see that the reason a lot of people don't even come to Christianity is because they think you have to be perfect to be a Christian. Yes, God says, be perfect as I am perfect. But He doesn't tell you to be perfect before you come. He says, come to me. You who are weary, you are heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Come as you are. Come with your burdens. Come with whatever it is. Come. Only believe. And all things are possible. He died for you. And He's worthy for you to come. And He can turn your life, He can turn your story into a testimony. And through that, win many more souls can be won. So I hope this has blessed you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless you.